Hey everybody. After a long break, at least it feels like a long break, we're back. Lego Star Wars, for the most part, is at an end, and I wasn't able to do what I was hoping to do Tuesday. For those of you who don't know what that is, I'll leave it for a surprise. But let's go ahead and dive right back into this. Last we left off, we had uncovered an interesting conspiracy surrounding the Red-Headed Gentleman Society, or some other group. I don't remember. They were all redheads. So I believe we're going to get some information about these guys now. Also, Daft Punker 25, thank you for the Prime resub. And we start with Gina. Ugh. Oh, there you are, Otto. What kept you, my dear fellow? Hello, Mr. Sholmes, Gina. You sure about what you said in there? That the boss, you know, actually died the day before? It's pretty hard to swallow. Yes, I was shocked by that revelation too, Gina. As was I, possibly more shocked than both of you. It's not a competition, Mr. Sholmes. But I was more shocked than all of you put together. So that means I win. This is the autopsy report in question, is it? Yes, it's strange that there's no time of death noted. I suppose there's a simple explanation, or perhaps it was a deliberate omission. Oh dear, if it was deliberate, it puts me in the mind of the last case we worked on, and Dr. Scythe. I know. Anyway, it seems that on the day before Lord Van Zykes discovered the body, Inspector Gregson was investigating the Red-Headed League. Perhaps something happened with them. Come to think of it, you had trouble with those League men too, didn't you, Mr. Sholmes? You were taken in by their trick. No! Naturally, I wasn't taken in, as you put it. My sleuth-hound interest was merely piqued slightly by the rare scent of a weekly £4 income. And that scent masked the underlying scent of deception, I suppose. The two criminals in question are the pair we saw being arrested yesterday, aren't they? In Mr. Sholmes' suite, I mean. That's right, Suze, and it was we that took them in. Thanks to a tip-off by a good law-abiding citizen. Indeed, yours truly. So it's going to be that pair in the witness stand next, is it? Something doesn't quite make sense to me, though. The day before Inspector Gregson was found, you hadn't had trouble with the Red-Headed League yet, had you? Why would the inspector been investigating them? Well, the likely explanation would be that Gregson's own sleuth-hound interest was piqued by their rare scent of a weekly £4 income. Don't tar with the same brush as you, Sholmes! Yes, well, then there's the whole issue of Inspector Gregson being investigated by Lord Van Zykes for some reason. The Reaper, the Red-Headed League, Inspector Gregson, Lord Van Zykes, and Cosima. Oh, and Cosima. Don't forget that part. I feel as though he knew we arrived at this point somehow. Gosh, I think you're right. What's he really trying to achieve here today? All the answers will soon be revealed. Observe the time, my dear fellow. The recess will be over very shortly. Yes, you're right. Cosmo was determined that he should be the one who'd prosecute this trial. And he was determined that I should take the defense. Just what is it that he's hoping to make me see, I wonder? I get the feeling we're a long way from the end of this trial yet. Oh God, no! Are you ready then, Mr. Zato?
Yes.
Sorry, hit my desk again. Ho, ho, ho. In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session again. We resume the closed court hearing of Barak van Zykes, here present, who stands accused of murder. Now then, Prosecutor Asogi. Oh my god, what was... It was like a very triumphant voice. Ryanosuke! My lord? Have you summoned the witnesses as requested? Yes, 2 members of the Red-Headed League who planned and carried out the deception. They arrived not long ago from the local prison by police carriage. Very good. Bailiff, usher the 2 men into the courtroom. Oh great, it's the 2 people whose accents I couldn't quite figure out the first time around. These 2 men are currently being held by the police on suspicion of attempted extortion. You may omit your occupations, but state your names now for the court.
I am Fabien de Rousseau, a descendant of the great Rousseau family from Nice in France.
Oh my god. It's always the pudgy people I can't get quite right. I feel like I have to pull my cheeks out to do something like this.
And my name is Peppino de Rossi.
There, you're Italian now. Deal with it.
I am the 3rd son of the great Familia de Rossi, the landowners of Napoli.
The 2 men first became acquainted at a boarding school for European nobility.
Those who graduate from Temisdi, the future of the Europe. But do you have any idea how boring it is to be born with noble blood? Alas! I make it my mission to get the better of the world by employing the little grey cells in my brain. That's all I'm trying to do.
So, that's the only reason for this whole grand deception you've been carrying out?
Oui. You could say that. Not bad, eh? Yes, the grand ideas, but the petty plans. This strange combination is the charm of the whoa, hilarious brothers. Si, capo?
Listen to me, Peppino. Now he's Italian too.
I have 2 things to say to you. Ecce, you tell me when your grandiosi actidos viva. Firstly, I want you to stop calling me this capo. And secondly, we're not the hilarious brothers. This is serious business. Chipello, there it is. The capo's trump card. The furrow brow. It is deep, capo, the furrow and the meaning of your words.
The court has been led to believe that under the banner of the Red-Headed League, you have conspired to swindle money from unsuspecting members of the public. Is this true?
Oui. C'est cela.
And what exactly is the nature of this deception by which you plan to defraud?
My lords, I will explain it. No, Capo, leave it to me! As you see, we both had the vivid red hair, no? I swore we will tease for this without pity. The capo here, he has many times behind the schoolhouse, crying like the Trevi fountain. Oh, the dogs! One day the world will respect us redheads! Every night he would bury his head in his pillow and weep for injustice. Yes, Ben Babino, enough! I will explain the rest. It was the first step in the newspaper advertisement. About 1 week before the plan was put into operation, we listed the same notice in every paper in London.
Yes, we saw that notice. It was this one, I believe, entitled To the Red-Headed League.
Oui, c'est ça. I'm honored that you found it.
It states that only one condition for joining the league is having flame-colored hair, and that if you satisfy the interview panel and are admitted into the league, you could receive a weekly income of £4. On the date specified, red-headed hopefuls gathered in droves at the park specified in the advertisement. And from each person present, this pair took an application fee of 5 shillings.
And with the money to France. It was the plan most elegant, no?
No, it was the most dishonorable. But to be frank, I'm stunned anybody was foolish enough to be taken in by such an obvious trick. The park was described by one witness as choked with red-headed folk, like a coster's orange barrow. On the day in which all these men gathered to apply was the day before the victim was discovered. Crucially, these 2 men spoke face-to-face with every single person present that day.
Oui, I have seen more red-headed people in 1 day than I will see in the rest of my life. See, and then now, every time I see the capo's hair, I feel sick to my stomach. Anyway, why have we been summoned here today?
Sorry?
The day for our trial was not until tomorrow, I was told.
Naturally, neither of these men have been told any details about this trial. They've only been shown this photograph. Very good. So, Mr. Di Rosso and Mr. Di Rossi, you will now give your formal testimony to the court on the subject of the gentleman pictured in this photograph.
Of course. We are always ready to help with the law.
Otokoi, thank you for the 17-month reset. Just in time for cross-examination. Oh, well, first we have to hear what they want to say. Oh, Bracky, also. Brackyzoid, thank you for the raid.
I was too focused on these guys' colorful characters.
Well, welcome.
We had more than 1,000 red-headed people assemble in the park on Lime Street that day. But I don't recall this man in the photograph, eh, Capo?
I lost the Italian accent.
No, I don't remember him. Obviously, he's dead now, but I assure you, he was not at the park. Allora, this victim has nothing to do with us. You have a lot to answer for, Peppino. It is your fault as we got caught in this first place.
Okay, what a weird thing to end it on. You've given sworn testimony that this man in the photograph was not present. Can you be certain?
Oui, I am quite certain. We did not interview this man. Nobody looking like this came to the park. This I can promise.
It must be noted that you've been arrested for your grand deception, however. According to this court, has little confidence in your assurances.
Ufo, with this attitude, we get nowhere, huh?
He's really sulking now. This confidential document was obtained directly from Scotland Yard. It records an entry from the inspector's private diary dated the day before the incident. It reads, Lime Street, Red-Headed League, undercover.
Ah, I have the answer. Maybe there was another similar event in the park on the day in question, eh? That is ridiculous.
There's no question that Inspector Gregson was investigating the Red-Headed League. which means it's quite possible that's when he was killed. Very well, the defense may proceed with the cross-examination now. Yes, my lord. I feel like this and Statement 2 are the same, but you give more details, so let's start with you.
Hold it!
But according to what you've said, you spoke with 1,000 or more people that day. Oui, that's true. My eyes were burning by the end of the day. Oops, I keep forgetting I can't do that. Surely then you can't actually remember every single face. How are you so certain that this particular man wasn't present? And normally the red hair is very distinctive, eh? But not when you have one of the 1,000 redheads crowding around, then this is just an eyesore. But if there was some other information you could have given us, maybe we could recall. That is not the line, Peppino. Remember, we do not remember him. You're sure of that fact, huh? If there was a man with a red hairpiece, but his mustache did not match the color, then I do not think I could have forgotten him. Cosmo said these two had only been shown that photograph and they've been told nothing else at all. But what if I fed them just one other detail about the victim? For example, his fish and chips. Huh. Man, the fish and chips are pretty distinctive. But if he was undercover, would he still be eating them? He wouldn't give his name if he was undercover either. Well, that leads his profession, but if he was undercover, he wouldn't give that away either. I can certainly appreciate that just knowing the man had red hair wouldn't help you remember this in this situation. But what if I told you that the man in the red hairpiece was actually a detective? Is the man in the photograph a detective? Yes. It would appear he found your notice in the paper suspicious and decided to investigate incognito. Sorry, this changes nothing. Ah.
Excuse me.
Something to add, Mr. DeRossi? Jesse, I'm always adding something. Parmesan, olive oil, pepper. What I mean is, did you not agree with your friend's last remark by any chance? And what did he just say? How about the detective? Yes, that. Keep your mouth shut, Peppino. We are not said enough already. But why, Capo? What is the problem? There was a man who said that I'm an inspector from Scotland Yard. What? Good lord! Order, order, order. Explain this, volte-face, in your testimony, witness. It's simple. A man who was at the park said to us that he was an inspector. There was no such man. Mida, what are you saying, Capo? Have you forgotten it? I have forgotten nothing. Nobody came like this into the park. Basta, Capo, basta! You beat me at many things for not two, the memory and the mirrors. Like I said, when it is time to eat the pasta, no one is faster. But you are inferior to me in every other way. So shut up!
Objection.
Top hard, the damage is done. Okay, hold on. That might be our thumbnail. Indeed it is, sir.
Oui, there was a man who came to the park and said he was an inspector from Scotland Yard. However, he looked nothing like the man in the photograph. He was someone else.
How can you be so sure?
Because the surface, his face is completely different. See, it's true. The man who came was a younger. His face was clean shaven, his eyes were stouter, and his chin was thinner.
No resemblance whatsoever, then.
Anyway, I was not going to be fooled. I took the obvious precaution and said to him, if you are really a detective, show us the proof. See, the capo here, he doesn't take a no-nonsense, eh? But he was well prepared. He had that identification.
Identification? You mean official police inspector's identification? Sorry, took a sip of water and went down the wrong pipe. That is most unconvincing. Sorry, my lord? Counsel, no incognito inspector would offer his identification for inspection. It's quite out of the question. Definitely. Why would he expose his true identity?
Clearly the papers were fake. Sotto Capo, you are a genius! As we say in Italia, it takes a thief to recognize another, eh?
And what happened after he announced that he was a detective?
He became very annoying. He said, you are under investigation. So I took his papers from him and chased him out of the park. It was fantastico! And look, here is that identification.
So you stole it from the man?
He had it coming. He made us very scared. But he was not who he said he was.
Indeed, the person described does not appear to have behaved as a true inspector would. However, I believe it would be prudent for these identification papers to be entered into evidence.
But I like them.
Now let's return to the witness's testimony. Now before I look at these papers. Well, I suppose we should see what this inspector's identification looks like inside. I can't read any of this. Oh. Yes, it definitely looks fake, doesn't it? Out of interest, what name is given? Probably just something plucked out of the air. It's, Tobias Gregson. Wait, what? This Scotland Yard insignia looks genuine to me. But how? And the department identification number details are all correct as well. Since when have you known those? Do you mean to say... I know it seems incredible, but yes. I think this is a genuine identification book issued by Scotland Yard. But that's unbelievable! This is the real thing after all? Gregson was a terrible detective! Okay, well clearly this is now a lie.
Objection!
I wonder if I could ask you to examine this identification book very closely. Miss Lestrade? Why Miss Lestrade? What is your intention here, counsel? Is this really fake, or is it genuine? That's the question, which we can't answer ourselves.
Objection!
Stop stealing my branding! Don't be ridiculous! No Scotland Yard detective would allow his or her identification to be stolen. Hold it! That is the boss's! No question about it! It can't be! As I suspected, the undercover detective who attended the Red-Headed League's enrollment on the day in question was the real Inspector Gregson, carrying out an incognito investigation. Pursue that truth, Ryunosuke. Zulu! Order! But if the boss has his identification stolen, he would have reported it straight away. I mean, it was always on me about it. You lose something, report it at once, he say. Could it be, then, that the inspector was physically unable to report it? Physically? Aye! What you were saying? Unable to? You're not suggesting. Yes, it's quite possible that he was killed before he had a chance to report his identification was stolen. No! Order! The defense posits that the victim was killed the day before his body was discovered at a different location. Do you two have anything to say about that? I know nothing. I know done nothing. Pull yourself together, Papino. Mon Dieu, can you behave a little more like a master criminal than that, no? No, I wish I'd returned to Italia. Stop crying, Papino, please. Otherwise, I... Let me stop your whining and start talking. Well, I believe the court will need to hear your story in considerable... I don't know nothing here, But you will tell everything, or face the worst possible outcome. Deportation! You will dry your eyes and testify again about these identification papers and the precise circumstances under which you came by them. For crying out loud. Get it? The truth is, we took a prisoner and kept him for the night at our secret hideout. Even though I didn't think he was the real detective, I was too scared to let him go that day, just in case. We took the man's identification from him and shot him in the room next to ours. There might have been a little tussle, but we did him no harm, and the next morning we let him go. He spent the night in a nice room. It was nothing like prison, really. This is outrageous. You imprison the man. But no, see, no. It was not like a prison. It was very comfortable and calm and happy. Hey, Capo? It was never part of my plan, I swear it. Oh, fast, so you think it was my fault, eh? Just because I got the date of the ferry wrong. By one a little day. I still not think it was your fault, Peppino, I know it. No, por favor, Capo, this is not fair. You shall have plenty of time for squabbling back at the prison, gentlemen. Oh, please, how could I have been a real detective? Counsel for the defense, proceed with the cross-examination. So on the day before the incident, Gregson spent the night confined in this pair's hideout. I gotta admit, I've been snacking on some beef jerky, and it is delicious. Just thought I would share that fact. I actually got it as a gift. It was a 6-month subscription to like a beef jerky, like a snack box, but it's just jerky. I find that humorous and delicious. Though so much of it is peppered, I don't like peppered jerky. If it's already good, it kind of has a little bit of heat to it. But peppered's too much. It's like snorting pepper. It just goes right into my sinuses. Anyway, let's hear a bit more about the tussle.
Hold it!
What do you mean by a little tussle exactly?
But it was nothing. It was just a minor incident.
Hate that I can use the wheel, but instead...
The false inspector, he was doing a piece of work, eh, Capo?
What happened?
Ufo was a disaster. We gave him a nice room, and what does he do? In the middle of the night, he tried to escape through the ventilore.
Can you blame him?
We chased him, Ben, sir, and we caught him again. Can you blame us?
Wait, you didn't shoot the man in your haste, did you?
So, who do you think we are? Of course not. We simply got hold of him again and took him back to the room.
Which you do not seem to agree with.
Excuse me.
Mr. DeRossi, is something wrong?
Hey, me?
Something Mr. DeRosso said seemed to make you, well, it seemed to make you act even more strangely than usual. What was that all about?
Cavolo, at times like that, you don't want to have the capo after you, believe me. And I speak from a personal experience.
Personal experience?
That is enough, Papino. There is no need to say more. The truth is, the night before we put the red-headed leak plan into action, I was scared. It was not fair to the capo, but I tried to run away.
It's a shame you didn't manage it.
But the capo, you're getting after me like a turbine, eh? You dragged me back to the house, kicking and screaming. I still have the bruises to prove it, eh, capo?
Bruises, you say?
You wanna see, You wanna see my fantastical bruises?
That's enough now, Papino. No one wants to look at any part of you.
What did to do? I show you or I don't. I show you or I don't.
You do! Now!
Lord, if everybody wants to see, then I'll do it.
Wow!
And who you see is still very, very visible, eh?
That red ring around your neck? You got that when you were dragged back to the house?
See, the capo sometimes he's very rough, and as I said, that's enough.
Papino's neck has nothing to do with what you're talking about here. You have my word. Suddenly he's German. Yes. What is your opinion, Counsel? About this red ring around Mr. DeRossi's neck? I wonder, does it matter?
Yeah!
Mr. DeRossi, I'm gonna have to ask you to amend your testimony with details about that mark on your neck. Whoops, went too fast.
Hey, Capo, you see, everyone is interested in what I say, huh?
Duh. Very well, you will amend your testimony as requested, Mr. DeRossi.
See, if you really want to know.
Alright, now do we see that in the photograph of the Gregson? not. So... is it the fact that it's not there enough of a contradiction to present it? Well, might as well see.
Objection!
Oh, music stopped. So the day before his body was discovered, Inspector Gregson was taken prisoner while working incognito.
No, it was not like that. It was already a prison. It was hardly a prison. It was an invitation to stay. It was only.
However you describe it, there's one glaring inconsistency that remains.
What inconsistency is this, counsel?
I would ask the court to look closely at this photograph of the victim, Inspector Gregson. You will see that there is no red ring visible around his neck.
But that makes no sense. It was me who took the collar off the man in the morning. And I saw the red bruises on his neck, just as I have.
Given that the mark is still clearly visible on this witness's neck, we expect to see bruising on the victim, who was put in the collar more recently than Mr. DeRossi.
Indeed! It is most peculiar. But what did we tell you, huh? We say this from the beginning. Many times. Oui, Papino is right. The man in the photograph is someone different than we held captive that night.
Order! It would appear then that on the day before the incident, the man who visited the park on Lime Street posing as an incognito inspector was not Inspector Gregson at all.
Objection!
If that's true, however, how do you explain the inspector's identification?
Ugh.
This is a genuine identification book issued by Scotland Yard. It's inconceivable that someone would have stolen such an important item from the inspector. The prosecution made that assertion itself. And we also know that the inspector had made a note about the Red-Headed League in his diary for that day, which surely means we can't divorce the two events completely.
The inconsistency noted by the defense is most troubling. If it were the real Inspector Gregson whom these two red-headed gentlemen encountered, the fact that no bruising can be seen around his neck defies explanation. But equally, if they actually encountered an imposter, how did that person come to be in possession of the real inspector's identification? Does the defense have a possible explanation, counsel?
The whole thing defies explanation. It is for precisely these occasions that we keep meticulous notes in the court record, Mr. Naruhodo. Because those are the facts. And the facts cannot lie. No, the facts can't lie. But even when they point to something so incredible, it's almost unbelievable. Well, my lord, the true identity of the person who turned up in the park for the Red-Head League's enrollment is revealed by information in the court record, I believe.
Very tantalizing, Mr. Naruhodo, or should I say, Ryanosuke. So, why don't you help us all see whatever truth it is that you've apparently seen? Who exactly is this imposter that appeared before Mr. Rousseau and Mr. DeRossi?
It's clearly whoever killed Gregson, or who was adjacent to the person who killed Gregson, because then they got his identification book. So, an imposter. Though it seems incredible, I admit, the undeniable facts point to only one thing. Since no bruising can be seen on the victim's neck, and the person who these two red-headed men took prisoner that day cannot have been Inspector Gregson. In other words, your whole argument up to now has been a waste of time.
Objection!
On the contrary, I haven't finished. My good bitch. What? There is no bruising on the victim's neck, so the question immediately posed next is, who exactly was this man in the park on Lime Street found to be carrying Inspector Gregson's identification?
See, that's right! We tell the same story every time! Whoever this man was, the captain dragged him from a pillar to a post with a dog collar. Mon Dieu, Papino! Was not horse, as you say, eh? So who was the false inspector, eh? Who was he?
Clearly, the defense has an idea about that. About the true identity of the man these two imprisoned that night. I must ask the counsel for the defense to elaborate post-haste. Who did the witnesses encounter in the park posing as Inspector Gregson? You know, for once, I'm not going to say Mel Strongheart, because they said he was clean-shaven. It's a very tiny beard, but he has one. Alright. I thought it was daily, but, We've had almost no information about Daily since before we even got to this case. Not you. You're dead. Not you. Clean shaven. But why did it be you? It's not Beppo. He's not clean shaven. We know it's a guy who's clean shaven and relatively young looking. And we know it's not them because they're the ones on the stand. So that leaves maybe him, Gossip, and for some reason Sholmes. We know Sholmes is doing something. Well, we know Sholmes had another plan in mind. So it's either him or him. I'm gonna go with Gossip.
Take that!
Oh, shit. Psycho Hedgehog, thank you for the raid. Goodness me, isn't that... One of the witnesses who was in the stand on this very courtroom earlier today. A nameless man whose only occupation appears to be peddling hearsay to passers-by.
Objection!
What on earth would a street seller be doing with a police inspector's identification papers? Witnesses, is this the man or not? Yeah. I didn't even look at his neck. That should have been the big clue. What's happened to his lip? Ah! See, this is a man is not for the red-headed league, eh? He's looking for the twisted lip league, no? Perhaps rather than making such a rash claim next time, you should bite your lip instead. It seems improbable, yes, but one undeniable fact remains. During his testimony earlier, I noted something around the man's neck. A red ring of bruising. What? The defense demands that Mr. Gossip be brought back to the stand. Order! Order! Bailiff! Bring the aforementioned witness back to the courtroom immediately! To be continued? Nope. They're both so proud of their abuse. Yeah, I do kind of miss the holy chalice throwing. It was stupid and over the top, and I liked it. Well, I never. An undeniable ring of bruising indeed. And identical to that of the witness beside him. Now what's going on here, eh? I always had this made. It's a birthmark, isn't it? A birthmark, you say? I assume the reason you've been recalled to the stand has been explained to you? Oh, something about the inspector again? Well, I'm telling you, you got no wrong as usual. You're denying all knowledge of it? Well, of course I am. Are you trying to kill me with all this nonsense, eh? Well, at least you have more stories to peddle back on Fresno Street, don't you? won't you? Now we're going to need you to testify again. And you, Mr. de Rousseau, Mr. de Rossi, I'm sure you'll cooperate, won't you?
Do we have any choice? We are in big trouble, eh, Capo?
That's quite enough dilatory chatter. Proceed with the testimony.
The man who claimed to be an inspector that day was definitely not this man. He's right, see? You think we'd forget the decorum lips, eh?
I never leave Fresno Street, alright? I got no interest in any red-headed league. I'm all alone in the world, May. I got no kinfolk or nothing. Why would I be involved in something like that? Just look at me, eh? Does it look like I would carry off with a disguise with a face like this? It would certainly appear as that we have the wrong man.
What have I been telling you, eh? There is no need for this pointless testimony.
Nah. That's right, I'm just a simple peddler, remember? Fresno Street's all I know. Boing, boing. Oh, I come by a police inspector's identification book, eh? Well, yes, that's hard to explain, but... brief cross-examination, I think, counsel. Very brief. Isn't there anyone in this courtroom who thinks I might be onto something?
I stand steadfastly at your side as always, Mr. Naruhodo. But Kazuma...
Sasato, no! Oh, great. Here we go again.
Hold it!
Now let's just ask a bit more about that. You never, ever leave a single street. So you've heard of the Red-Headed League, have you? You don't get a name like Gossip for nothing, eh? It's my business to what's going off in town. I sold that tasty tidbit to a few fair redheads that came past me. Just between us, I even got sandwich to cough up for it.
Well, he does have a very red nose, if that counts.
Who knows? But as you can see, my own hair's not got a hint of red in it. Ah. In any case, Fresno Street's my patch. You won't catch me siding off to another part of town. No, sir, not likely. Oh, that's very much a bitch please look.
Excuse me.
Mr. de Rousseau.
Oui? How can I help you?
Did Mr. Gossip's words just now lead you to remember something relevant, perhaps?
It was the other day, when I was looking for a place near the park, a small house or something.
To be the headquarters of your Red-Headed League, yes.
I visited an housing agent on Lime Street and there I saw him. The man was paying money to the agent.
What? Mr. Gossip, what, with a housing agent?
He had some kind of contract on his hand and they were clearly discussing terms.
But no, you're mistaken, chum. I never let Fresno Street me, like I said before. You've mistaken me for someone else, someone with the same face.
No, the capo is right. I remember it too. He was paying the man with the banknotes.
With notes?
But like I said, that wasn't me. I was curious why this man with the dirty clothes had so much money. So I looked at the man on the name on his papers.
And what name was written? Mr. Gossip?
No, this man, he lies. He tells you that he has no name.
But in fact, his name is Hubon! Hubon, eh? It's better than Mr. Gossip, I think, see?
No! I'm a peddler of tidbits and information, like I said, on Fresno Street, and that's that. Oh, I don't much like folk talking about my personal life.
Indeed. And it's not in the intention of this court to invade the privacy of witnesses. Well, it is. It totally is. Also, GMAS DBA, thank you for the 15-month Prime sub. Primary sub. What the? No! Very well, I shall respect your wishes, sir. The aforementioned name shall be redacted from all court records of this trial, assuming no objections.
Objection.
My lord, fuck you. I'm sorry, my lord, but the defense does object. Because the name just mentioned has a very deep significance to this case. Good gracious! Do you simply object, Prosecutor Sogi? As it happens, my lord, that particular name has already been mentioned during today's proceedings. Well, I never! In what capacity? Hugh Boone. The name of the leaseholder of the room. Let me put this very simply. The victim's body was discovered in your rented room. I suggest, sir, that you start talking. Well, alright. I suppose that might be the case, eh? So your real name is Hugh Boone? Boone. Well, just between us, I don't like to blow me own trumpet, but there's no finding the peddler tidbits in town. So I happen to be the afford a grubby little room in a fallen down backstreet townhouse. You do? And once every 6 months I go and pay the rent to the region on Lime Street. I remember now. There were 2 regular vulgar redheads in there last time. Hey, if neither of us is a vulgar, it's all to me. Let's think again, Bapino. Why didn't you bring this up before? It's like I told you already. I don't like it talking about my personal life. I'm a tidbit peddler as far as everyone else is concerned. No fuss. You will update your testimony to include this most surprising revelation, Mr. Boone. If I'm lost. So the leaseholder Scotland Yard has been looking for since the body was discovered, and has been out here under our noses all along. We found something important in that room, and it wasn't just a body. Oh, here it is. You know this bitch?
Objection.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no. Then now we know that that's a lie, because if he... Okay, I was one step too far. I was ahead and behind at the same time.
Objection.
So now we know that Hugh Boone is really Daily Vigil. If you have no kinfolk, as you put it, then explain why this... Then explain why it... wait, what? Then explain why it is that among... Wow, that's a whole lot of words for one simple point. Then explain why it is that among the sparse furnishings we found this photograph in the room. I presume, as you've been renting the room, that this photograph belongs to you, does it not?
Oh, well...
Mr. Boone, drop the pretense and tell the court exactly who you really are.
I don't know what you mean. I'm a peddler. I keep telling you so. You really don't need to bother with me. Please, just leave it alone.
As the man says, leave it alone. Whatever the truth is about this man's life has no bearing on this case. Because it's simply not possible that he impersonated Inspector Gregson.
Objection.
How can you be so sure? Just look at the man! No amount of disguise could ever hide those unmissable features.
Objection.
But what if we were to look at this the other way around? What do you mean? Yes, counsel, what do you mean? Well, there's no denying that Mr. Boone's lip is very prominent indeed. But consider the possibility that his prominent lip is itself part of an elaborate disguise. Then hiding that prominent feature, in other words, revealing his true face, would make an utterly impenetrable disguise. Wouldn't you agree, Mr. Hugh Boone?
Boo!
Good witness! Are you still hiding the truth from this court? If that's a disguise, then underneath it, his true identity must be... Yes, that's right. There's really only one person he could really be. My lord, the defense believes that it can reveal Mr. Boone's true identity to the court.
No, please, no! My wife won't stop looking for me!
Very well then, counsel. What is the true identity of this peddler who goes simply by the name of Gossip on the street? Male strong. No, really, it's delayed, Vigil.
Take that!
So really, I was right in the first place. Your real name is actually Mr. Vigil, isn't it? Mr. Daily Vigil. I don't recall that name, counsel. Who is Mr. Vigil? It's a name I encountered yesterday, my lord. It has to do with a certain client of Mr. Herlock Sholmes. A young gentlewoman came to the detective asking him to locate her missing husband. The woman in this photograph, in fact. This is Mrs. Vigil.
What?
From what I understand, you haven't returned home since the night before the inspector was found dead.
Damn.
But of course, on that night, you were being held captive by the two red-headed League men. And last night, you were put up by the prosecution service in preparation for testifying in this trial. Because we've been led to believe that you, Miss Venus, and Mr. Sandwich were all homeless. Being important witnesses in this case, we decided to know where we could find you, of course. And that explains why you've not only been unable to return home, but also unable to contact your wife, who's been beside herself with worry waiting for you at the Vigil residence.
Now, you just hold on a minute. You know, the first
What I'm talking about? Really? It's a simple enough matter to confirm my suspicions. All we have to do is pull off that disguise.
No, please!
Bailiff, bring soap, a sponge, and a washbowl at once. Mr. De Rousseau and Mr. De Rossi, you will restrain the witness.
Oui, my lord. Si, my lord.
Okay, good. I at least got a couple of these.
Don't!
Well, we are now seeing your true features, I presume. Oh, wow, he cleaned up. Where'd you get the extra clothes from? Lift your head, sir, so the court can see your face. It would appear that the defense counsel's assertion was entirely correct. This has all been a very elaborate deception. So, witnesses, tell the court, have you seen this man before?
I don't believe it, but... See, there is no question. This is the inspector we saw at the park.
Extraordinary. On the day of the Red-Headed League enrollment, the man claiming to be Inspector Gregson, who appeared before Mr. de Rousseau and Mr. de Rossi in the park, was you, disguised as the inspector, or rather, was you posing as the inspector in no disguise at all? Mr. Vigil was formerly employed as the chief warder at Barclay Prison. The chief warder? Then your career had promise. Why would you quite possibly have... Why you could quite possibly become the future governor of the prison? What on earth did you have been doing peddling little tattletale and doing... What on earth have you been doing peddling tittle-tattle on Fresno Street? Oh, Lord. Well, it's been 10 years since Mr. Vigil worked at the prison. 10 years?
I'm really dreadfully sorry about all of this. Yes, it's true. I'm Daily Vigil.
And you were the chief warder at Barclay Prison 10 years ago? So where did Mr. Hugh Boone come from?
Boone is the other me. It's a name I invented.
Well, evidently, there's a great deal under the surface here. Under the surface. Mr. Hugh Boone's really a big fucking liar.
I'll explain everything. I'll tell you just how wretched my life has become. As you say, it was 10 years ago now that my employment at Barclay's chief warder came to an end. Having left the prison service, I searched for some new occupation by which to earn a wage. But times were hard in London, and I found no suitable engagements at all. In desperation one day, I turned my hand at selling wares on Fresno Street.
But your wife appears to know nothing of this. She still maintains that you're the chief warder at Barclay Prison.
I was utterly determined that my wife should not know of my failings, which is why I never told her. I opened an account at the bank under the name of Hugh Boone, and I rented the cheapest room I could find on Fresno Street.
The scene of the very crime we're investigating.
Yes, that's right. A place from which I could emerge every morning at 8 as a squalid peddler, and transform myself back every evening at 5 into a well-dressed man about town before returning home. That quickly became my daily routine.
I was puzzled by the lack of furniture in the room. But that explains it. But why on earth didn't you just tell us in the first place?
I have a wife, sir, and 2 sons, and without wishing to sound self-conceited, they regard me with some pride. I could not bring myself to disappoint them.
So instead you decide to conceal your occupation from them?
Yes. I've made such a terrible mess of everything.
Still, one thing doesn't add up. No matter how many tidbits of information you could sell to passing gentlemen, even at 6 pence apiece, you couldn't hope to match the salary you must have commanded as chief warder at the prison. Very true! To have kept your family in comfort, and such finery, despite 10 years of somewhat misbegotten employment. I've sold my bodies, sir. Are you happy? I didn't want to admit that, but I did. I'm a very good whore, sir.
It was all thanks to Inspector Gregson.
What? Inspector Gregson? On what on earth?
It was some years after I invented Boone and begun my other life as a street seller. The inspector, that is, recognized me one day.
Do you mean to say the victim was an acquaintance of yours?
I knew him from my time working at the prison. When he saw what I'd become, he was deeply troubled for me and my family. And from that day forward, he visited me on Fresno Street with an increasing regularity. Then one day, he asked if I would carry out a secret assignment for him.
A secret? What was it?
It was to impersonate the inspector.
What? Impersonate him? He looks like he's about to vogue.
We always met in that little room so the inspector could brief me.
Visit Ortiz tomorrow. Make a statement from the proprietors.
It was always something along those lines. Surveillance work, interviewing people. On those occasions, he would lend me his identification so people would believe who I was. My instructions were to make an impression, to let people know that Inspector Gregson had been at work. And for those services, he compensated me financially.
A Scotland Yard inspector willingly relinquished his identification into your care with intent to deceive? That, as I'm sure I need not point out, is a very serious criminal offense. But why? What was the point of you impersonating him?
I truthfully do not know. All I can say is that the inspector warned me on numerous occasions.
Now remember, Vigil, I need your solemn word. You don't blab about this to anyone, alright? Ever. Even if, well, if I end up a croaker.
And he did! In time, he started to bring papers with him to the room as well. It became something of a second office for him.
So, in fact, the person who declared himself to be Inspector Gregson at the park on Lime Street was really...
Yes, it was me, acting on the inspector's orders. As usual, I removed my Boone disguise, and then went as instructed to the park, armed with the inspector's identification book. It never occurred to me that the bruise on my neck might give me away.
Well, it would seem this confession completely destroys the defense's case. Explain yourself, Prosecutor Osogi. Explain yourself. My learned friend's assertion was as follows. The victim was killed at another location on the day before his corpse was discovered, at the hands of these two Red-Headed League men when they imprisoned the inspector. Ow! But no, that can't be! Ow! After all, it wasn't the inspector who went to the park that day, it was me! Oh goodness. Finally, we have clarity. We had nothing to do with the murder of the inspector. And merci, Monsieur de la France, for proving it. What? What? Order! 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 Indeed, it would appear we have reached a de facto conclusion of sorts. These witnesses had no involvement in the murder of the victim. As proven, somewhat ironically, by the defense. Ah! I hereby call an end to the cross-examination. Have fun hanging, Van Zykes! Pardon me, my lord, but with your permission, I would like to pose one further question to the witness. Kazuma? What question, counsel? It concerns the events of 10 years ago. I believe you would have been present at a very significant execution that was carried out at the time. 10 years ago? Ah, the execution of the professor, Genshin Asogi. I want to know exactly what your involvement was. Oh! Answer me, man. One moment, counsel. Is this related to the current case? Naturally. It is the prosecution's belief that this case and the events of 10 years ago are inextricably linked. Does the defense concur, counsel? Kazuma, you're not yourself. You're not as calm and collected as usual. Poor Kazuma-sama. No wonder he's acting this way. Mr. Vigil's memory of what happened 10 years ago would tell the tale of Genshin Asogi's last moments. His own father. I know, I do understand that, but even so... Prosecutor Asogi. Do you genuinely believe that this question requires an answer in order to learn the truth behind Inspector Gregson's death? I need you to trust me, please. I don't. Objection! Very well. Then the defense has no objection. I see. Well, I still think this is bullshit, so moving on. Clack, clack. In that case, you will answer the question, witness. The truth is, I remember very little of that time. You've forgotten? I'm so sorry to say, yes. As I said, I resigned from my role at the prison 10 years ago. For some peculiar reason, my memory of the events leading up to that moment is extremely hazy. Does that not strike you as strange, Mr. Naruhodo? Sorry? Well, 10 years is a long time, but I've forgotten the reason why he left such an important job. Yes, you're right. Well, not only that. Mr. Vigil's claim contradicts what we already know. The human spirit is a fragile thing. It's broken all too easily. Which is why we have a tendency to wrap it up for protection. Sorry? The human spirit? I don't have that. I don't even have a spine. I'm afraid I don't understand what you mean. When we experience pain and suffering that we feel unable to bear, we block it out, obliterate it from our memories, seal it away. but it never truly leaves us. If the seal is broken, the memories resurface. And when they do, that fragile spirit may finally be crushed.
But I really don't. Kazuma-sama.
Well, if it must be crushed, then so be it, because the truth will not stay buried. It's coming out one way or another. Right. Now I understand. It's clear what his intentions are. He means to expose the truth at any cost. Perhaps if I pointed out the contradiction in what Mr. Vigil claimed earlier, it might cause some crucial memories to return to him. But should I? Should I present the evidence or not? Do it! I have no idea how this is going to go, but this is a court of law, and I have a duty to pursue the truth. Mr. Vigil, I'd like you to look at this. Evidence that clearly contradicts your version of events. Your walking papers!
Take that!
Just a few moments ago, you made the following statement. I resigned from my role. Oh, I'm sorry. I resigned from my role at the prison 10 years ago. That's you. That's what you sound like.
Well, yes.
In other words, you claim to have left the post of Chief Warder of your own volition.
Well, yes, of course.
Why? Tell me. Do you remember seeing this document before?
No, I don't.
This is a dismissal notice ordering the immediate termination of a prison staff member's employment. A dismissal notice? And the name on the notice is yours, Mr. Vigil.
What? What? Ow! It's mine?
So you didn't resign from the prison service at all. For some reason, you were dismissed as Chief Warder from Barclay.
No, there's some mistake, I'm sure. Ow! I'm sure I never tendered my resignation. The dismissal notice is nonsense. I feel faint. Isn't it?
If you were forcibly dismissed, there must have been good reason. Clearly, you did something. Mr. Vigil, it's time to break the seal and have you remember.
Oh, room's getting dizzy. I need some rosé.
According to the few remaining records, the final execution that you supervised was on 17th of June, 10 years ago. On that day, something very serious took place at Barclay Prison.
The 17th of June.
Was that the professor's execution?
Professor?
As you were the chief warder at the time, it stands to reason that you would have been present throughout the proceedings.
It does sound familiar.
And yet, that execution never took place. The convict, ostensibly executed earlier that day, later re-emerged from his grave.
The convict came back to life.
In the cemetery in the middle of the night, there was a witness. However, the witness claims that a moment after he saw the convict clambering out of the grave, a gunshot rang out from over his shoulder. And the bullet pierced the professor's chest, killing him instantly. Those may have been the professor's actual last moments.
Yes.
Seeing as you were in charge of overseeing executions at the time, you must know the truth about what really happened. It's in your head, somewhere deep down. Well, Chief Warder Daily Vigil, I know there are memories in your head that can explain what happened on 17th of June 10 years ago. And now it's time for you to drag them up. Mr. Vigil?
Yes, the whole prison. It was complete chaos. The prisoner escaped. He was killed in the cemetery. The shocking news ripped through Barclay like a hurricane. That rocked me like a hurricane. What?
Order! Order! Order. Do you mean to say, Mr. Vigil, that your memories of the time have returned?
My head hits. It's like some floodgates have been opened. The images, the screams. Oh, my goodness. We've broken the man. The papers. There were reports, articles about a man who'd seen a ghost.
Yes, Enoch Drebber. But surely those reports were exaggerated.
There were traces at the scene.
Traces of what?
In Lowgate Cemetery, at plot number 139. Blood. Lots of blood. That's where the man was buried, of course. Obviously, something terrible had happened there.
The depths of conspiracy and depravity from which this tale is emerging is quite staggering. I've reviewed the police reports from that time extensively. A thorough investigation was conducted by Scotland Yard to ascertain how the convict managed to escape in the first place. And the conclusion reached by the investigating team was that a member of the prison staff must have been involved. Are you suggesting that the prison warder betted the man's bid for freedom?
Yes, and I was suspected of doing it. Of using that mass murderer's execution as a way to help him escape.
You did what?
I remember now. The horror of it all is coming back to me.
Hold on, we may have another screenshot moment now. I want to see if I can get him in a good pose. Right there, and right there, and right there. All right. One of these should work.
One evening, a few days after the execution, some detectives came to the prison. I was called to the governor's office at the top of the watchtower.
I'm sorry, Daly. This is a serious business. I cannot help you know. As chief warder, you were responsible for overseeing the execution for, eh? Well, it seems the fellas at Scotland Yard want to have a few wee words with you about it. You'd better pack your things, laddie. You're to attend in person.
As soon as he told me that, my mind just went completely blank. And the next thing I knew, the professor, the most hated killer in our country's history. And I let him escape. I'm finished. My life...
Oh wait, this is back when he was not insane.
...is over! Woo!
Eddie's down, folks. K.O. Order! Bailiff, fetch a doctor at once! Not Dr. Scythe, god damn it! Court is adjourned for the day with immediate effect!
So, with Mr. Vigil's collapse, proceedings came to an abrupt end for the day.
Hooray!
Once again overshadowed by the legacy of that notorious killer, appearing like a cursed ghost ship on a foggy ocean. Lord Van Zeeks, Mr. Vigil, Kazuma, and Gregson.
Oh, wait, is that confirmation? We now finally know it's Zeeks, not Sykes. Had they said it once before? Maybe. We've gone too far with Zeeks. We've gone too far with Zykes. Shit. And it just sounds better, doesn't it? Lord Van Zeeks, Lord Van Zykes. I'm keeping it. Fuck you, game.
All of them bound by invisible chains anchored to the same wreckage in the murky depths of the past.
Wow, that's a very tortured metaphor.
But the miraculous light that had been trying to cut through the gloom and shine on those tragic events was playing on the edges of the truth at last.
To be continued? Hey! Alright, well, I know it hasn't been a full 2 hours, but I do have a hard stop at 9 o'clock, and I sincerely doubt the next part is only going to be 30 minutes long. So, sorry to cut it short, but I'm going to go ahead and stop things here tonight, folks. Thank you for joining me. I might actually run a poll on Twitter to determine if tomorrow I pick this back up or if we finally check back in on what Barth has been up to. I did do some grinding in the background, so maybe we can continue with his quests unabated. But until then, folks, I'll go ahead and pass you along. I know Nick actually just started doing the Lego Star Wars saga. So if you liked me doing it, you might like him doing it. So that's my decision. I've already hit raid. Now I just have about 7 seconds left to kill. Thank you for joining me. Hope everyone has a good night. I'll see you tomorrow, whether it's one game or the other. Toodles!